This is nice. We are live today, my friends, because we are going to dive deep into what healing really is, and I'm going to take your questions in regards to pretty much anything, my own personal experience, what you're currently going through, and all that important stuff that's only going to contribute to your healing. So, just going to give my friends a few minutes to come and join because sometimes it takes a bit of time for people to catch up. Okay, so I've just touched on the internet, fixed it. So just want to take a few minutes, my friend, with you, if that's okay. Can you hear me all right? Can somebody comment just so I know that the volume is good and working? Okay, volume is good. So again, we're just going to give it 2 or 3 minutes, guys, for others to join. And I personally love doing these lives. I know what deep levels of suffering is like. I've been there, and hopefully I can provide some deep insight for you today that will really help you moving forward. There we go. Also on these lives, you never know what's going to happen. I remember one time there was actually this spider actually crawling through the home when I was in Bali, and I just freaked out. And it's very real, very spontaneous, my friend. So I just want to take a few moments just to feel a deep, really deep sense of gratitude just for being with you all. And if you don't mind just joining me, eyes open or closed, doesn't matter, but to set an intention for yourself for this live. An intention that says, provide me with the insights that I need to supercharge my healing, my transformation. They together for a very specific purpose. And I know many of us will be able to relate to one another's stories. So this is going to be very, very nice. Free Spirit 11, hello. Muna Dridi, hi, how are you? Glad to be here. Bree Chili, brain fog and fatigue. Yeah, I've been there. We can definitely talk about those. The Motivation Man. Hey, Dennis, keep up the great work. Thank you. Love and prayers to you as well. Michelle French, internal vibrations, hate it. Yeah, I've been. Many people can relate, I'm sure. Monique, joy of life. Hello. Yes, hello to you as well. White, you cannot, not that I've heard, to die. You can die from a panic attack. Haven't heard that to be the case. Vamshi, how are you? Okay, cool. Lapue, Monique, and Monique, joy of life. What a beautiful name. And Tony Mavridis. Okay, welcome everybody. And I'm just going to give it another minute or two here. So grab a nice cup of tea or whatever, water, whatever you would prefer for this live and this get together. As we dive deep, I'm looking to provide some insight on what healing is, what healing really is, what anxiety healing really is today. I'm looking to answer some of your important questions in regards to where you are. I'm going live and my cat is also going crazy thinking, oh my God, what's going on? This is new, this is different. So if you see her climbing around and jumping on my head and stuff, don't be alarmed. Taking a few deep breaths, my friends. Just grounding yourself in this very moment with all of us together. Let's not rush this. Let's not be frantically searching for answers. Let's approach this experience together with a certain degree of emotional balance, if we can. I know that's very difficult with anxiety. I can relate. But let's go nice and slow. And it's very nice that you can come and join me here today. So, music, Elliot. Hey, how are you? Long time, yeah. It's been a long time. It's been a long time. Mac AT says guilt. Steve Smith, how are you? Love your voice and candor. Very reassuring while I'm panicking. Oh, I'm glad I could bring some things of safety during those moments, because those moments are they feel very unsafe during panic and during those high levels of anxiety. I have been there. I have gone through it. I have gotten through it. Many people I've worked with in the past and present have gotten through it, and I believe the same fate apply to you. So I would like to, if you guys don't mind, just kind of touch a little bit as we start this on how you kind of got here, and what continues to, because how you got here, I believe, is important in addressing what healing really is. Comment below if you have always, or at least for a large majority of your life, viewed yourself as a highly sensitive person. I'd just like to know if anybody can relate to that term, a highly sensitive person. That term goes around quite often. There are many great books and tools, and we're going to touch on some of those tools today for sure. Yes. Sacred Beings Meditation. Ooh, I love it. Ooh, that name gave chills. Glad I found you. Glad I found you too. Welcome. Me too. Terry White Winkler says yes. Okay. Bree Chill can definitely relate. Analyzed Guy, hello to you as well. Mac AT, yes. Thank you for the comments, guys. I love the engagement back and forth. That's great. I love it. The no holding back today. This is an important time for your and time. Then bam, panic attack, Steve Smith. So when I was a kid, parents and such would always identify me as being a very shy shy and sensitive person, and I started to really, connect with that identity. Like, oh, okay, that's what I am, I guess. And that highly sensitive person it kind of invested into a dysregulated nervous system, because when a highly sensitive person goes through certain experiences in life and are told things others and are led by other people such as parents and authority figures in a harsh or confusing way, then that can weigh on people, especially children who are just starting to create the brain wirings that they will live with later on. So highly sensitive people, in my experience, have more of a chance of experiencing a dysregulated nervous system. I know we throw the word anxiety around a lot here, but I think it's very important that we touch on some of the roots of that anxiety, right? Because anxiety didn't just show up out of the blue for us, right? Or panic or this sort of thing. This highly sensitive nervous system, you know, has led to a dysregulated or an imbalanced nervous system. And what tends to happen with this is a lot of the safety characteristics tend to fall away for a person, and the fear-centered ones start to come forward. And after some time, the body and the mind start to become one. Comment below if you are at the stage where you feel a certain degree of burnout that comes with your anxiety, right? A certain degree of burnout that comes with your anxiety. Comment below. And so, you know, this burnout can show up obviously as exhaustion. This burnout can show up as heightened sensitivity, right? This burnout can show up as deep levels of irritability or sensitivity to sound, right? Sensitivity to sound, sensitivity to certain foods and how they taste. So as you can see, it doesn't just end with a person being highly sensitive and a highly sensitive person. That person can then move through their life accumulating a lot of weight, accumulating a lot of belief systems and programs that tend to weigh heavily on the person. You may be there right now. Let's take a look here. So Kia says yes, definitely. Terry Weiss-Wayne says yes. So you can relate with the highly sensitive person label. Nasa wider, but life is getting much better now. That's nice to hear. What sort of things are going on in your life to create those changes? Actualized guy, question. I'm facing a problem with my studies currently. I can't remember what I study and I can't recall facts. Okay, very, very interesting actualized guy, because there are so many cognitive challenges a person runs into at the more middle or later stages of this burnout / anxiety, right? Things like I can't remember things, or it's hard to focus on one thing, and these sorts of things. And sometimes you go into a room, often when you go into a room with this level of burnout regulation, you're going, what am I supposed to do in this room? I don't remember what I'm supposed to do in this room. Can you kind of relate to that? You tend to avoid studying, do better without studying. So a lot of avoidance there, right? So there is these phases, you know. What's interesting that the body and the mind are one. However, I think it's very, very important for us during this healing process to remember that there are 3 very important components that are worth writing down to make sure that you have as a part of your everyday habits or patterns, right? When you follow through with these 3 components, right, which for me and people that I've worked with have made a very tremendous difference for them, for their burnout, for their anxiety, for their overload of stress in mind and body, right? These 3 components. Is it okay that I share those with you? Comment below. And these are general components, and we can dive deep into each of them if you would like, absolutely. But these, to me, kind of put everything else into perspective. if that's all right that I share. Let's see. Admo, welcome. Yes, it feels like a horrible merry-go-round. So many people will be able to relate to that. Calm periods and burnout. Burnout, Terry says. Okay. Fortnight. My son would say the same thing. Okay, so there are these three components, guys, that, and let me know in the comments if you have or are currently going through any one of these, if you are adding them as a regular, sometimes it doesn't have to be every day, but a regular aspect to your day. Throughout your day, you are adding these, right? Hearing you is making me comfortable. Well, that's nice. English life. Okay, so the first component that I believe is very essential for a dysregulated nervous system and anxiety and panic is the component, and these are the three R's, right? If you're writing them down, will be easy to remember. The component release. The component of release, okay? Release. Now, what are we releasing? We are releasing suppressed feelings in the body that are laying stagnant, right? Laying there, compound the stresses, the angers, the fears, the old programs, right? How many people here have a program based around perfectionism? Hands up if you're one of those, right? Trying to get what you're doing to go the exact outcome that you wish, and no matter what, even if that takes up your physical health or your mental health, it doesn't matter. You're so dedicated to that outcome that it ought to be that way. That perfectionism program, does that relatable to you? Let's see. So we're talking about release. Tony Mavridi says yes, specifically in the morning. Now we're talking about release. We're not trying, I don't like that word. We are dedicating ourselves to a practice. A practice allows us to speak to the subconscious body mind. Okay? So I've been at this for 15 years, more than that, and it's very important that you find a practice where you feel emotionally connected to that helps you to release. Now, releasing the tension in the legs, releasing the heaviness in the body, releasing the programs from childhood. So it's release, the first R. How many people here are currently doing a process or working with a coach or therapist on a particular technique or a process that helps you to release? I'm curious what that might be. I'm definitely going to scroll back up and answer these questions. Absolutely, guys. I'm not going to miss your questions, okay? No need to jot them down twice. Actualize your meditation videos are my go-to. Can't imagine how they... Oh, that's so nice to hear. I was doing meditation for 5 years. My video enough. Well, that's lovely to hear. So when we talk about release, would you like a few different examples of release that I can give you that I know to work for most people? And I can share those with you, okay? But remember that it's very important when you're releasing to understand that Signs of releasing are things like crying. Doesn't have to be hysterical crying, like a tear here and there is fine. Because the only place a negative emotion can hurt you is when it's stuck inside of and accumulating. So we want to work on releasing that, or else we're going to fall victim to that negative emotion, right? And it may cause irritability, anger, and this sort of thing. So we need to release. Now, the way I did and continue to do release with other people is simply, like, for example, well, forget that. A process emotional reframing, which means the eyes would be closed. We would begin to imagine things differently, okay? So utilizing the imagination, okay, and using imagery to release what no longer serves us. And you can use imagery, and I do my emotional reframing playlist, you can check that out, to reparent yourself. That's a form of release, right? You can do that. So there's a lot of emotional reframing videos here on my YouTube channel. Hit the like button if you've done any of those. For example, one of the best release practices that you can do for yourself starting today in the category release is known as the gray room. Have you done the gray room? Comment below. All you have to do is go on YouTube, or you're here, click gray room anxiety guy in the search. Okay. Gray room anxiety guy. Find a comfortable spot, preferably in a dark area. Lay down or stand up, whichever one feels more comfortable to you, and allow yourself to be guided through the gray room. Yes, I've done the gray room from your program. Wonderful. Thank you. That's wonderful. Elliot, yes, the gray room is amazing. Highly recommend it all. Okay, so there's some people that have done it here. Tony Mavrino, Kia, Admo. So gray room. All you have to do is gray room anxiety guy. That's there. It's also in my programs as an audio at theanxietyguy.com. Barb Jameson, hugs to you. So we're talking about the three components of healing first. First is release. Guys, I want you to feel like you are regularly, doesn't be all every day, but regularly applying a practice that helps you to release. Okay? So I gave you an example there, gray room, on this channel or in my programs. Another somatic, straight from the body, I believe is a very powerful way of releasing stuck feelings, emotions, even trauma from the body, is a practice known as TRE. I'm a big fan of TRE, Traumatic Trauma Release Exercise by Dr. Berselli. I highly recommend him, right? He's very, very good. He knows his stuff, and this can be very, very good. Comment below if you've heard of TRE or have done it for yourself in the past or are currently doing it. So we go gray room, TRE. These are things you want to look for the release category, right? Admo, no? Okay. There's something to become curious over. So now we're talking no imagination. We're warming up the psoas muscle and so on, getting the body, especially the pelvic area, ready to release some of the stored trauma in those particular areas, okay? Because a lot of anxiety people and dysregulated nervous systems hold a lot of tension, hold a lot of trauma in the midsection, right? Yes, trauma release exercise, TRE. Let's go to a question or two here. So I hope I've been clear, guys, that it's very important that you utilize some kind of release practice on a regular basis, okay? Release. I'm going to go a bit further into that later on. Let's see here. Thank you for sharing your current challenges, guys. It takes a lot of courage, and it's nice to share these things to get it out of you. Many people here can relate, including myself. Brad Farmer, sure. Any tips on anxiety around blood pressure and getting stuck thinking about it, which raises it and then creates an endless cycle? Yes. Brad, it's very important. It's very important that when you experience things like raised blood pressure, it's important you do not allow the false self or the lower self to perceive what's going on. Because if your frantic self experiences the blood pressure rise, then that will only create further discomfort and issues physically. Okay? So it's very important that you remember that the blood pressure rise is very much related to unconsciousness from the body, Brad. So often there isn't a thought or anything that goes into the rise in pressure. It's like the automaticness of the body takes over, and it believes that the rise in blood pressure and anxiety, which tend to go hand in hand, is necessary for this moment. Right? So without even I don't know what's going on, right? But blood pressure rising. So first, it's important for you to remember that you mustn't perceive the blood pressure from the part of you that is frantic. Okay, I do believe we go deep into this in my programs, but this is your lower self and this is your higher self. Lower self is your self. Lower self will look at the blood pressure and all symptoms of anxiety and say, oh boy, this get worse. What's going on here, right? Oh, you better go get checked out. You better pay close attention to it always. If this continues to happen, then you're going to run into this, that, and the other thing. So the lower self wants to keep you in a state of fear. Okay? The blood pressure rise is there as a protective mechanism for someone with a dysregulated nervous system, hypersensitivity we call it. So in that very moment, it's very important that you listen to another part of you. So if you listen to your lower self, there's no end to the catastrophe. If you listen to your higher self, then you will understand that this is nothing more than a fleeting moment. You can't do anything about the unconsciousness in the body. And for you to try to frantically try to do something about the unconsciousness in the body that picks up potential threats in the environment, present or future, for you to try to do something about that is when the lower self says, yes, got him, I got her. So the more you try to solve the blood pressure, the more you try to find an immediate solution to the anxiety symptoms, the more you're allowing the lower self to dictate how you live your life. But as soon as you recognize that you also have a higher self that can look at the lower self and pick up on its patterns. I see your patterns in mind and body. I see your patterns. The mind always looking for the next idea for me to attach to in order to stay in a frantic place. I see the patterns in physical body, muscle twitching, trembling, dizziness, brain fog, ants crawling through my body, it seems. headaches. The list goes on and on. I see the patterns you are trying to keep me enslaved to. The lower self always tries to keep you enslaved to fear. And fear can show up in mind, and fear can show up in body. And as long as you no longer, right, as long as you no longer frantically reply or frantically react, is a better word, to the lower self and all its fear, and instead allow the higher self to look at the patterns of the lower self and recognize what's going on, then you've started the healing process. That is the start of it. It can literally continue on till the end, where the lower self no longer feels a need to run these same patterns and programs. But it starts with the recognition of what the lower self is doing. Comment below on your biggest more than anxiety moment from what I just said there. I want to hear from you. And I can simplify it if needed. Macat, I like your visualization of actually looking down at the lower self. The frantic mind, the frantic body, the frantic mind in the future, the frantic mind over what took place in the past, the frantic body in the moment, the frantic body around what will take place in the future. Lower self. Right? All lower self. Because, okay, so Michelle French says it makes sense, definitely, keeping in your head and let the body do what it needs to. Keeping calm can only be possible long term if you identify with your higher self. Now, I'm using kind of spiritual lingo here, but stay with me. You are not your symptoms. You are not the thoughts going on in your mind. You are not the traumatic interpretation of your past. You are not these things. These are things that are happening, right? These are things that are happening, but these are not you. That's lower self. Now, I put myself in higher self. Now, I'm detached from all of those things happening. See what's going on? I'm having the experience of a negative thought. I'm having the experience of muscle twitching. I'm having the experience of dizziness. I'm having the experience of fatigue. You see what's going on here? This is the kind of detachment, okay, that sets the path, the golden path for you and your healing, all right? Okay, so I want to stay with this. I know I went a little too deep with that question related to blood pressure specifically, but this is the direction I'm led to going today for these particular questions. So sometimes I have thoughts, I'm not real. What to do? Embrace the unreality, Con. Embrace the unreality. You see, the problem is that for everything that we now perceive as being a problem, we feel like we need to have a solution for. And that's the problem. Symptoms are only problems if you give them your attention, emotional investment, and energy. That's the only way symptoms can get in the way of you living your life. Now, when you get good at this, You feel like you're not ignoring the symptom, but it's kind of like bringing a 2-year-old with you no matter where you go, right? So you've got the 2-year-old screaming. Abdullah, I will answer those questions. I know you've mentioned a few. I will definitely get to them, your particular issue. So it's kind of like acknowledging the 2-year-old, the lower self, but not allowing the 2-year-old to tell you how to live your life. Let me ask you this question. Are you ready? Would you allow, I'm going to say a 5-year-old for this one, because 5 is about the time when we should strengthen our conscious brains, conscious minds. Would you allow a 5-year-old to tell you what's a real threat and what's not? Comment below. Would you allow a 5-year-old to tell you what's a real threat or not? A lot of people have been answering no. Very much, wow, lots of no's. Monique, Macat, Fortnite Noob, Con. The reason why here is because you've allowed yourself to, you've allowed the 5-year-old to tell you the status of your health. The reason you're here is because you have prioritized the 5-year-old as being guidance in your life. Because the moment, that very magical moment where you recognize that the reason your symptoms are so strong, the reason the mental fog is still there, the reason the depersonalization is all still there, is because you have, to some degree, compounded on top of the original fear years ago. Right? You have compounded the fear. Because here's the thing. When the 5-year-old starts screaming, symptom, idea, thought, right? And you leave it there, it's no longer anxiety. When you place yourself to higher self and look at what the lower self is doing, it doesn't matter how strong the symptoms are. Some days are going to be worse than others. But you realize that it's all coming from a dysregulated nervous system that has been invested in stress for far too long. And you're looking at it, then you're no longer adding to it. And as long as you are no longer emotionally adding to it, your symptoms will stay at a baseline level. You just have to stop giving so much priority to what the 5-year-old is telling you. Are we clear on this 5-year-old idea? This is very important. Because now when you look at your headache or your brain fog, right, and it's a 5-year-old, it's not as scary. Right? It's like, there's the 5-year-old. It latched on to my shirt, doesn't want to let go. And it can stay for as long as it wants. But I'm not going to give in to what it's telling me. Right? With this level of emotional neutrality, right? Now you are becoming. Now you are becoming your true self once again. Let's see here. I want to just make sure that before we go on, this speaks to you. Is this helpful? Is this helpful? Um, I'm trying to word it in a way that's relatable, right? So for you actually going through what you're going through to kind of be able to apply it. That's my goal. Is that it? Or, because this is an important point, right? It's everything. It's everything, right? Is psychedelics a thing for me? Actualized guy. Like now? No, not now. Let's see. It's good? Okay, it's good. If we need further clarification on this, it's worth asking. Let's see. Could you speak more on the authentic self? Yes. The authentic self is the opposite of your lower. Your lower self is the one consumed, wants you to be consumed, and is completely dedicated to you living a life of fear. That's your lower self. But your true self, your authentic self, is the one dedicated to love. So when we think about it in this way, it becomes easy to understand. Now, the authentic self, which I believe that with so many years of in the inner work myself and such, no matter, well, I don't want to say no matter, but the majority of things that happen to me and around me, I have love for. Because the way I treat somebody else is the way I treat myself, right? So if someone is going through a difficult time or mad at me or something, and I'm mad at them, then it's kind of like, two bulls going at each other. So the authentic self, it has a genuine sense of love for no matter what body part, what symptom, what idea goes on, and also what's taking place around. So authentic self prioritizes things that the lower self doesn't. The authentic self prioritizes play, right? Because how many people are here from my Instagram? Getting some beautiful sunlight coming in. If you're here from my Instagram or have watched my videos from amount of time, you know that you can see the changes in my teaching, right? I am so authentic now, at least I feel I am, that play comes naturally to me. So I play with whatever content I'm about to share. Play is a part of being authentic. Compassion to your symptoms is authenticity. So when you're compassionate, I'm having this now, I allow myself to have this symptom, I allow myself to go through the dizziness, I allow myself to have the headaches, I allow myself to feel the negative emotions, I allow myself to go through this feeling now. Allow, 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 allow. This creates a sense of connection. And without that sense of connection with your body, it becomes very difficult, right? It becomes very difficult to heal. How many people here feel like they are actually, if you're not there yet, you're getting to a place where you have created a new relationship with your body and therefore your symptoms? I'm getting a good tan today. Whew. I should close that, but feeling a different relationship with your body and your symptoms. Silverado says, I have. Good. Getting there thanks to you, Michael Whitehead. Hey, good stuff. Me, not yet. Monique, not there yet. Yes. So, baby step. Dubai, yes. Good. That's good to hear. Tony Mavridis, one question. Dennis, when I go for walks, I feel better. Is that a doing thing? It depends on how you're walking. Doership, okay, I'm going to close that. As much as That sun is beautiful. Back in the game. Oh, that makes it a bit easier. If you go for a walk trying to eliminate anxiety, to eliminate stress or a particular symptom, then you're in doership. If you're in doership, you're allowing the lower self to run your life. If you're going for a walk for the enjoyment of it, if you're going for the walk to experience the presentness of that walk, then you're going to benefit. Just like anything else. Anything that you do with the idea behind it that says, I'm doing X to get rid of something, to fix something, you will not be able to fix that thing. You are only adding to your anxiety. That's called doership. Okay? But if you're doing the meditation because it fills you with compassion and it's a beautiful practice to do regularly, great, right? If you're doing the releases we talked about, right, and you're doing them out of love and without expectation, then that's what we're talking about. Because anxiety makes you feel the need to control every aspect of your experience and to fight for a specific result. Stop fighting for a result, allow the result to come as it does over time, and focus your attention on your self-care and your regulating work, right? Yeah, walking equals mood regulation. All of that good stuff is going to come to you, but you got to have the right approach, right? You can't force yourself into doing something in order to take something away. Right? I'm going to go for that walk and I hope X happens. No, that's not it. X is going to happen as long as you have the mindset and it's gentle, right? And it's patient and it's loving. All right, trying to catch up with the comments, guys. Tony, does that help? Are you walking from a place of doership or walking from a place of higher self? That's the easiest way to ask you that question. So there's three aspects I wanted to talk about healing. One was release. In the beginning, we talked about release, making sure that you're doing release practices. Number two is receive. So when we're talking about receive, I'm talking about receiving clarity, right? And the way you receive clarity, which goes a long way towards, I do drink coffee. Yes, I do. Now I do. Before I didn't. Receive is the surrender sessions you do on my YouTube channel. And those you can do every day, right? So the three things that you need: release practices, receive practices, surrender sessions, these sorts of things. Tracking, very, very good. If you're highly symptomatic, somatic tracking practices, those sorts of things, fantastic. How many people here are doing a receive practice regularly, if not every day? And that could be one of my surrender sessions on this. That could be a previous meditation that you've done from this channel. It could be someone else's, something else. Receiving the insights, right? Receiving. It's like a letting go practice. It's like a being with practice, right? It's like a being with the body and all its sensations practice. Being with the ideas that come and go. This is in terms of receiving. Let's see here. Oh, Barb Jameson, I do your surrender sessions and subliminals as well. Excellent. Love to hear it. All right. Night noob, all the time. I can see you giving some advice there. Okay. I used to feel out of my body. Yep. Now I'm back in my body. But yeah, that depersonalization, Agatha, Nawa, Very, very relatable. Okay. Michael Whitehead, for sure. Cooperate. Don't compete with symptoms. Resonates with me. That's nice. Thank you for sharing your moment of clarity. Yeah, because that's the starting point, really. It's, it's like a new relationship, right? What's your relationship with your symptoms? That's a powerful question right there. What's your relationship been with your symptoms? If you're in a frantic place trying to get rid of a particular symptom and doing everything in your power to get rid of the symptom, then you're allowing the lower self to run your life, which means more anxiety. It's so important that I'm going to keep touching on it, guys, right? Muscle tremors and twitching. Yep. So that use thing for me, I remember, whew, man, I Googled everything. I took all these scans and stuff like that. But a dysregulated nervous system can definitely hit you in many different ways, in different angles, and can stick around. How much time these symptoms happening? I don't understand the question. I'm sorry. Let's see. Questions. Let's see here. What else we got? Oh, you're very welcome, Bar. Awesome. Silverado, I meditate daily or listen to your surrender session and just observe. Wonderful. Love the commitment. Okay, how to handle feeling out of your body. Enjoy it. Did he just say enjoy it? Yeah. Because the thing that keeps it alive is the need to try to fix it and to find a solution to it, which creates more of the habit of overthinking, which keeps you in a sympathetic state called fight or flight. But if you start to enjoy it, Agatha, fight or flight goes down, franticness goes down, and you also start tapping into a very important characteristic, which is the embracing uncertainty. Enjoy it. Like when I used to be dizzy or depersonalized or out of body, I used to treat it like, oh, at least I don't have to go and have an alcoholic beverage. I'm drunk already. And that right away started to neutralize me emotionally. Right? Michelle French, what about messages of safety? Dr. John Sarno, TMS World. What are your views? Have you heard of him? Yes, of course I've heard of him. I've read all his and he is in my opinion, he's right on, right? He's right on. He is in this mind-body syndrome or this connection that he talks about. It's what we talk about in, non-direct ways on the channel very, very often. So I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan, and I would, if I was still struggling the way I was with pains and aches and stuff like that back in the day, I would take his recommendation into consideration. I would definitely passionately follow his guidance, right? Because it opens up a lot of new clarity, right? You no longer see the physical as a structural thing. You no longer see it as a physical threat, right? But now you're starting to realize the power that your unconscious mind has to create symptoms and aches and pains and all this imbalance in body. Yeah. Islamabad Medical Care. Hi, please guide about sexual performance anxiety. How to manage it, how to manage the thoughts, particular moment which pop up when you're about to perform. Very important topic. Very important topic. I would focus my attention on a particular vagus nerve stimulation prior to going and performing, right? Or in the act of, yeah. So vagus stimulation can do a lot to bring us down from a high place of fear and doubt and sensitivity in mind and body. So vagus nerve stimulation, things such as humming. Humming is beautiful. High levels of laughter, neck massages, earlobe massages, circling, right? Pulling. But one of my favorites are, of course, humming. So 3 seconds in, 10 seconds out with a hum. Vagus nerve stimulation can go a long way, not only just for the social performance aspect, but in any environment or situation you're about to enter into that causes you some hesitancy, some anxiety. Okay? So I would focus on regulating the vagus nerve for those particular experiences. Obviously, while you're in the act of sexuality with someone or whatever you want to call it, it can be difficult to hum. So you want to do them before, right? And then what you're going to happen during what's going to happen is your breathing patterns may shift from what they used to be. So just notice the differences. Oh, hi. Oh, hi. Oh, you want to say hi? Look. She's a star. She's a star. She's such a star. I love you. This is Lucky, everybody. Just posing. What do you think? Oh, hi. Can I do the live now? No, okay. Only the tail. That's a lot of fur. Excuse me. No, you cannot. We love Luck. Okay. Let's see. Okay, let me see here. There's a question. I'll pick on Des Mujic. Any advice how to stop thinking it'll happen again? Let me see what happened. Stroke survivor, major PTSD from the incident, and as a result, which have been crippled with chronic dpdr body numbness, which makes you think it'll happen again subconsciously. Okay, Des, I'm sorry to hear that, but we can set you on the right path. So obviously, in this way, going through such a traumatic experience like you have, trying to think your way through that, or that sort of catastrophe in mind, is difficult. So I would highly suggest practices around imagery where you, and it can be very simple, right? And this can really make a difference in how you move forward. So as the old you is going through the traumatic experience, okay, I would like present you to imagine that you are there for the old you. So you're imagining being there, telling him that he's going to be safe, he's going to get through this, it's going to be fine, while he's in recovery, giving him a big giant hug, telling him that he's safe and he's so loved. He doesn't have to carry any of this past stuff with him in the future. His health is only improving by the day from now on. So every day, either when you wake up, preferably when you wake up in the morning, go through this compassionate imagery process where you are imagining that the present you is with the old you, and you are providing all the love and words that that person needs to hear in order to leave the experience past. Does that make sense? Admo said, great question. Let's see what that question is. Okay. Dennis, your thoughts on taking antidepressants, please. Okay. So, my thoughts on antidepressants. Well, my personal experience with them is that I couldn't go through the initial stage where your body tends to react very frantically to these new chemicals. It made my symptoms, anxiety, thoughts, 10 times worse when I took them for the first 3-4 days, and I couldn't maintain that even if it was going to get better. So that's my personal experience. I never took them for long term. I took something else that helped back then. There's a time and there's a place for antidepressants. I'm not the kind of person that will say no and you must go holistic, healing. Anybody who says that is very ignorant to what the potential is for that person. I used to be one that I literally mapped my suicide, guys. I wrote it out, and I was 5 minutes away, right? I was 5 minutes away. I was literally looking at the bridge. If you read some of my books, you'll know that experience that I went through. But I didn't. So there is time, there is a place for antidepressants. I don't think you should carry any kind of guilt for taking them or shame, because some people just need them, right? They do. At certain points in their life, they'll just need them. So that's my opinion on them. Trust your heart, follow your intuition, and if you feel like you really need that sort of support along with the work you're doing on this channel programs, then good for you, right? Good for you. That's completely fine. That's my opinion. There's a lot of twitching going on here. Oh, thanks, Admo. A lot of twitching going on here. When I read the comments, I don't know about you guys, but I can see a lot of twitching. Sometimes trembling and twitching. Is that you? Another one. Okay, internal vibrations. This is something that we have to pick on. We have to tackle this, guys. The only person holding you back from the twitching and the trembling is you. Hi, Lisa. How are you? When you're experiencing twitching and trembling, your body is actually releasing stored energy. More than anxiety moment. But because you keep interpreting them as potential threats to you, you keep thinking that it's some kind of catastrophe, when in fact, it's something that your body naturally does to release what it needs to release that's been pent up, which is stress. Sometimes there will be like jolts, especially when you're just falling asleep or taking a nap, like these jolts, right? Sometimes it shows up as twitching in the arm, the stomach region, or the legs, right? So and notice how these occurrences happen when you're actually laying down and trying to relax, when you have downtime. When you have downtime, your symptoms will get stronger. Because your nervous system has now identified that it's okay for it to release the pent-up energy around stress that you've been carrying around. So when you start relaxing, or when you go into meditation, or when you start doing these things and you feel like your symptoms stronger, celebrate. Don't fear. Say, this is my body's way of releasing the pent-up stress in my body, right? And as long as you continue to have this perspective, right, you're going to continue to feel that neutral feeling emotionally, rather than go into a frantic place. Let's see here. Oh, Elizabeth, hi. Good to see you. Does that speak to you? Does that help, guys? Because a lot of people are freaking themselves out when these symptoms get stronger, when they start to have downtime. So they never allow themselves downtime because they have to experience the symptom, right? But in truth, when you have downtime, that's a very important time for you to continue your regulation, right? Continue your regulating of your nervous system. So let the body do what it does, right? And so much of your healing is dependent on the level of surrender when you do have downtime, right? Because everybody here has spent way too much time perfectionism, way too much time with people pleasing, and way too much time avoiding negative emotions or trying to avoid them. Does that sound like you? Okay, what are you playing with? She found a pistachio. And if you hear that sound in the background, it's a pistachio. Things. Okay. Dennis, can popping benzos help me eventually because the symptom's scary? I don't like the word popping benzos. That would mean that you are taking them often and during times where you likely don't need them. I mean, that's just something that But benzodiazepines can be a very powerful helper in regulating your nervous system if you use them right. If you use them right. But again, if you use them in the relation of doership, like if doership or lower self is taking the benzo, then, and of course there's going to be times like this, but you don't want it to habit, right? You take them in order to get to that place of balance. Take it, balance, take it, balance. There can be a certain pattern building up there. In truth, the most important patterns that we're trying to create here are in mind and body. Right? So our focus is there on that regulation. Okay, so Pumbalakba, how to not care about other judgments of our failure, because it's what makes me isolated. I think you're placing more emphasis on other people's judgments and perceptions over you and what you do, rather than prioritizing your own values and identity, right? So I would take the next 3-4 weeks and focusing on yourself, because you've lost yourself to some degree. If lower self continues to lead a person's life, then they will live for others, right? They will continue to live for others, to please others, to be there for others. That's called compassion fatigue. all right? And if you have compassion fatigue, you will, basically, you've found yourself in the desert and you've completely forgotten what your true nature is. So I wouldn't try to handle this directly, but I would partake in certain surrender session practices regularly to find yourself in. And that happens slowly and progressively. Right? Let's see here. Silverado, difference between ignoring symptoms. Oops. Difference between ignoring symptoms versus confronting. That's a great question. It keeps skipping. Example, flicking away a feeling or thought. Is that confronting or ignoring? So ignoring would be to move your attention immediately away from the symptom into something else with the hope that the symptom goes away or lessens, right? That would be ignoring. But acknowledging and working with the symptom would be the acknowledgement of it. I feel you, I hear you, I understand you. However, we are no longer in that past situation. And then from that place, moving your attention back to what's taking place in the present moment, right? That would be more so relationship building. Whereas the other one is kind of like, oh, it's there, I got to pull my attention to my phone or some kind of a distraction. Yeah, you're very welcome. It's like, and like we want to, we want to build good habits and patterns, right? Because that's when we will truly, feel, in the next couple months who we are becoming once again, or are we stuck in anxiety? It is the patterns and these habits. So, it's very important that that we do pinpoint some of those frantic habits that keeps us stuck, and to not try to override them or delete them, right? To kind of work with them and slowly to replace those with others, right? So it's not about taking things away, guys. It's about replacing, right? It's not about taking away a symptom. It's about replacing your relationship with the symptom. So it's not about taking an idea or thought away. People ask, how do I delete my thoughts? You don't, right? You see them for what they are, right? These thoughts are nothing more than noise and distraction coming from the lower self, right? It's all seeped in protection, and it's become a pattern. So this is important from a mental, emotional work standpoint. Dehydration, absolutely. Yep. Dizziness, chronic fatigue, particular symptoms. A lot of times the water that we drink doesn't really help with the hydration. That's why I would recommend a certain pinch of Celtic salt specifically, because it has the most mineral content in it. So every morning when you wake up in the morning, Celtic salt in your water. Barbara O'Neill is fantastic for this. Barbara O'Neill mentions how important it is to put a bit of Celtic salt on your tongue waking up in the morning so that your body can absorb those minerals and hydrate itself upon waking up. Very powerful and will actually hydrate you. As a lot of the products these days that we think we're taking that are good for us, even the fruits and vegetables, we need to question and where they're coming from and how they've been developed, right? And especially the meats and these sorts of things that we eat. So let's get very, very picky about what we put in our bodies, of course, right? What's the greatest advice for life, Sean? Ooh. What's the greatest advice I have for life? The greatest? I don't know if it's the greatest, but it's what's coming to me in this moment. Um, I would say let God work through you, and, well, let God work through you and trust in the unfolding of life. A lot of times we say, I did this or I did that. I don't believe that. Like even me speaking right now, I believe it's coming from a different place. So I'm very in touch with Source, with that. That would, yeah, that's what's coming to me right now, right? Let it work through you and trust in the unfolding of life. Motivation Man, any advice for intrusive thoughts and obsessive worry? Yes, number one is let's not take them lightly. They can be very, very debilitating. I've been there. One of the things that has really helped me in the beginning stages with intrusive thoughts and obsessive worrying is understanding that they are just an experience, but the thoughts themselves are not true in and of themselves. And the obsessive worrying is something that I have control over, right? So remember, thoughts, these intrusive thoughts and such are coming from the lower self, looking to keep you in a state of anxiousness. And the worrying is something that you're doing that are pounding to the initial thoughts. So as long as you see the thought and go, oh, there's that intrusive thought again. Yeah, it keeps trying to get my attention. There it is again. Oh, is that what you think might happen? Well, if it's going to happen, I'll deal with it when it does. So my relationship with them has become a lot lighter over the years, right? And that's what's going to take you out of that obsessiveness. Does that help? I can go deeper. Sahaney, I am a full-time caregiver for my adult son. We're total care, and my husband has heart disease. What are the best ways to handle the stress in these types of situations? Good question. I know a lot of people are in the similar boat. One of the best ways, Lisa, is to make sure that first and foremost you absolutely have to prioritize your own writing time or mini vacations throughout the day, because an already burdened person who's experiencing a certain degree of burnout can literally burn themselves out to the point of chronic fatigue if they continue to negate their own needs. So the first and foremost, make sure that you prioritize your needs while you are the caregiver, while you are caring for others. And that can come in whatever form makes you feel like you are really giving back yourself in a loving and compassionate way. Okay? I'm going to go there. I'm going to go there. Secondly, I would come from the attitude of you're doing God's work, right? And so anything that you do isn't coming from a place of willing yourself to do it for others, for your immediate family, but you're literally doing God's work. So if you do those two, one is the self-care repeatedly, and the two is that everything that you're doing is actually coming from source, then the pressure will be lifted. Boost up. how do you deal with setbacks in your journey? I've been doing great. Good. Last month, everything is back to anxiety. Well, one of the most important things in setbacks is to understand that they will be there. They will be there, whether you want them to be there or not. And even if you have recovered for a long time, there's a good chance that setbacks will show up again. Setbacks can be anything from an increase in symptoms, strength of symptoms, old symptoms coming back. Fatigue can be emotional symptoms. It can be related to thought patterns. So the most important thing here is to recognize how you stretched yourself. Because think about it like 3 boxes: mental, emotional, physical. And in some way you stretched yourself. You've gone beyond what your system can handle in a mental way, an emotional way, physical way, or a combination. So you go to your book, your journal, and you write down the ways you've stretched yourself. You've gone beyond your threshold. So you've been bombarded with something new and you've been overthinking it, or you've been too highly emotionally invested in somebody else's life. In some way, you've gone beyond what your nervous system can handle. Okay? I would start there with setbacks. And then from there, with that level of awareness, you go forward, paying attention to not getting close to your threshold. Always staying below it, always staying below it, always staying below it, right? Give this YouTube live a like, my friends, if it's helping you and if it spoke to you. I love it. I would really support those likes. And if you get a chance, please share it with anybody out there in need. It would really help me. I do. Could be anxiety. It sounds like, yeah, it could be anxiety and health anxiety. Lower self is very relentless. Yeah, very relentless. Yep. Oh, yes. One more question here. Ajij Khan, hey Dennis, I'm suffering from social anxiety and high anxious state. I will smirk. It's awkward for me and other people. They think that I'm degrading their status. That's them. And how to get rid of that. I wouldn't try to. You can see the smirk in a positive light. So smirking, smiling, these sorts of things are positive, but we give them negative meanings. So in relation to the smirking, right, you just let them know that, hey, I'm just smirking because I'm enjoying the moment. But in relation to your social anxiety, that we want to trace back to some of the times where it started, right? And I would go through some of my emotional reframing processes on this channel. So go to emotional reframing on the playlist, and there are many reframing things that you can do to kind of, to rewire some of those social interactions. But yeah, I love you all. And yeah, thanks for joining me, guys. This was wonderful for me, and I hope it was wonderful for you. If you want me to do more of these YouTube lives in the future and their help, let me know in the comment section. And as I mentioned, a like. And yeah, it's if I didn't answer your question, then I apologize. So put it in the comment. I'll do my best to answer the question next time. But so much love for all of you. Remember, you are more than anxiety, and I hope that I've contributed to your progress in a little way or a big way today. I love you all and hope to see you soon, guys. More. Okay, cool. Yeah. So nice to connect. Bye, my friends. Be kind to yourselves. Be very, very kind to yourselves. See you soon.